Welcome to the Home Team Podcast. I'm Carl Falconer.
And I'm Daniel Arroyo.
And we're tackling homelessness. Today in our podcast, we will discuss two of our passions, football and ending homelessness. Please join us through 4 quarters, with our topic this week being, what is transitional housing? So how's your weekend, Danny?
So I was just thinking about it because I knew we were going to talk about it, and I forgot what I did this weekend. Whoa. We went to Disney Springs. That's what
Disney Springs.
We went to
Okay.
Disney Springs and hung out and just saw the trees and all the Christmas decorations. And
Nice.
that's it. It was just a quiet weekend at home. So
Okay,
yeah.
good. Trying to think of what I did this weekend. Worked, I think, yeah, because we had the HUD-NOFO going on, so I was trying to get some work done, and yeah, that was pretty much it. Hung out, watched some football, of course, as always, but yeah, absolutely.
Our lives are so eventful.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yes. Yeah. They definitely are not going to do some biography on me or anything.
Definitely not.
It's going to be very boring and people would shut it off after a few
What they do? Football. That's it.
Football. That's it. Exactly. Football and work.
That's it.
There you go. Football, work.
That's our
football,
lives.
work. That's pretty much it. Exactly. All right. Well, we'll start it off as we usually do with the coin flip. So, Danny, call it in the air.
Heads.
It is heads, so you get to lead us off.
All right. Well, welcome to our first quarter. I'm going to kick off by defining our topic of the week, and then we will cover some news headlines and announce the results from last week's Home Team Locks of the Week. So our topic this week is transitional housing. Transitional housing refers to a temporary structured living environment designed for individuals or families who are experiencing homelessness, fleeing unsafe situations, or recovering from major life disruptions. Unlike emergency shelters, transitional housing offers people a stable place to live for an extended period, usually several months up to 2 years, while they work on rebuilding their lives. It is meant to be a bridge between homelessness and permanent independent housing. Residents not only receive a safe place to stay, but also have access to a wide range of supportive services that address the root cause of their homelessness. These services may include case management, mental health support, substance abuse recovery programs, job training, educational assistance, childcare, and help securing long-term housing. The overall goal of transitional housing is to help residents achieve stability, develop skills, gain financial independence, and successfully transition into permanent housing without returning to homelessness. It is especially common for people who need a period of healing, recovering, or adjustment before being ready to live on their own. So, yeah.
So, in my experience, what I've seen with transitional housing is that this is one of the trickiest types of programs or types of housing to be able to run. And the reason is because of the vast time difference that someone can be in transitional housing.
Yep.
You know, as you read here, several months up to 2 years. So I've seen transitional housing programs be as short as 3 months. And then I've seen transitional housing programs go all the way to 2 years, and then sometimes even extend beyond that. In some circumstances.
I think it gives the person that's in whatever situation they're in that time frame to work individually on their own goals, on their own, what the end result is for each person. It's not like you got 6 months and that's it, we're done.
Right.
Every single, family or individual is different. So I like that it spreads it that far out. And again, it depends on the person, the situation they're in, and kind of where they're at,
Yeah. I think for service providers, though, that's where it gets tricky. That's the problem, is how do you budget for a transitional housing program when you don't know whether you're going to have 10 people who are there for 2 years or 50 people there for 2 years, or you're going to have 20 people there for 3 months, 17 people there for 6 months, 35 people there for 18 months. I mean, it's all over the place, and trying to budget for that is a really hard thing. But the reality is the best transitional housing programs run their programs like that, in just like you described, where they give the person the least amount that they need until it's called progressive engagement.
Right.
So what you do is you give them the least amount that they need to be able to get from month to month until they become independent. And the problem is you never know from month to month what that's going to be. So one month, you might start out where somebody has a job. They come into your transitional housing program. They have a job, a full-time job, and they're paying 80% of their rent, right?
Right.
So they do that for the first 3 months, and then they lose their job. And then in the fourth month, all of a sudden the program has to pay 100% of their rent because they're without a job. And then in the fifth month, they pick up a part-time job, and then they're paying 50%. And it's really hard to budget, but it's also it takes a lot from the case managers to really flex back and forth on that progressive engagement because
and for the case manager to figure out when they're actually ready.
That's exactly
the other
right.
thing.
Yes.
Because if we see that the person is kind of jumping, they lose their job, like you said, and then it's not a steady income coming in.
That's
So
right.
the case manager has to decide, okay, how many more months or a year am I going to give this person to be actually stable to
That's
then
right.
move on their own? So
you bring up a great point is how do you judge their stability and how do you know that they're ready to move on to other things? And the other thing about transitional housing, which is different than rapid rehousing, which we've talked about before, is transitional housing is usually in a separate setting. So it's usually in one site, it's more congregate usually, and it's a site-based kind of project, whereas rapid rehousing is out in the community. And that's even a harder transition because somebody can be stable, doing really well in a transitional housing program, doing great, and then they have to move out on their own, and all of a sudden they have to relearn all of those skills.
it's
again.
a culture shock, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it's different to budget, when you're someplace in a structured environment, than it is to budget when you're out there on your own in your own apartment.
Right.
I mean, it just is.
Yeah, because you're on your own. You pretty
That's
much
right.
you have to fend for yourself and make sure you're paying everything on time and
Exactly.
putting food on the table and all that stuff.
Exactly.
So,
So it's a tricky one. This one is tricky, and I've not seen a lot of people do it really great.
I think also call for the transitional housing, like we said, about when to roll someone off. I think creating a program like this, you have to create what the criteria is to come in.
Yes.
But then what the criteria is to go out.
To get out. That's
what I mean?
exactly right.
And if you set that and all the case managers are in line with the same criteria for someone to exit out,
Right.
I think it'll make it more successful because then everybody follows kind of the same plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
And again, it's hard to predict that though. That's the hard part because, like you said, even if you predict who's coming in, what the criteria is for people coming in, you don't know how they're going to react once they're there.
Exactly.
And like I said, whether they need 3 months or they need 18 months.
Right.
And budget-wise, that's just a nightmare.
It's all
trying
over the
to
place.
figure out. You don't know how much money you need.
Yeah.
You'll estimate for the most conservative estimate, and then end up with a whole bunch of extra money that you can't spend down or something.
and how many people you're going to serve within that time.
Absolutely.
So to budget yourself accordingly. So
Exactly. So it becomes a little bit of a challenge, but we'll talk more about it later. Now let's take a look at some of the headlines from the homeless world. Earlier this year, Orange County, and that's here in Orlando, or here in Central Florida, Orange County nonprofit Matthews Hope partnered with the Apopka City Council to bring a sleeper bus to the second largest municipality in the county. It's meant to help keep people experiencing homelessness off of the streets at night and give them a safer place to rest. Its Orange County location in Winter Garden will be getting a carbon copy of one of the existing buses sometime next year, and it's something the organization is very excited about. Matthews Hope gave a tour of one of its buses in its parking lot in Cocoa, down south of us. It's a coach bus transformed into a mobile overnight shelter and is a program the organization's founder, Scott Ballou, said he couldn't imagine when he kicked things off 16 years ago. I'm still trying to figure it out. I just wanted to help some homeless folks, Ballou said. So this is a really good story. This idea of the mobile bus is a really innovative way to think about, trying to do things.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we'll talk a little bit more about innovation and creativity later, but this is one of the more unique things. And I know they have right now we have the Christian Service Center has the 407 Connect. Correct. And they have this kind of sleeper bus. Mm-hmm. But Apopka, for those who are not familiar with Apopka, is more of a rural kind of area. So the homelessness there, I would say, is not as dense, but it's probably more spread out. Mm-hmm. And so for them to have a bus in that area is a really positive thing, because they don't have shelter out in Apopka. And in order to get to Orlando, people would have to go a long ways, travel a long ways, and transportation is just not that easy for them.
Yeah, and Apopka is very close to Winter Garden and to Coe, where there are other service providers like Matthews Hope and Christian Service Center, but there are no shelters out there.
There's no shelters.
So they're kind of the hub of kind of capturing all those people in those areas to provide services. But no, I think this is the new kind of thing now, is sleeper buses.
Yeah.
I just want to see what the outcomes are going to be. That's what I want to see, because if they're doing great work, not saying anything bad about the buses, but if we're just putting people in for the night, but there's no housing afterwards, then it kind of defeats the purpose. I would love to see in a year what the 407 Connect, what Matthews Hope, what their kind of results are to get people off the street.
Too. Yeah, I think that might be one of the drawbacks. And again, we'll have to see, but that might be one of the drawbacks of the bus is that you can't provide services on the bus, really.
Right.
They're designed for sleeping. And that's it.
Yeah.
So it's almost like going to an emergency shelter and getting kicked out during the day.
Right.
If there aren't any follow-up services, or there's nothing for the people to do during the day, service-wise, well, then it's going to make it real challenging.
Yeah, but I think it's great just being out there is, these folks that are on the street, it takes them a long time to get downtown to go to a shelter.
Yeah.
By the time they go, those shelters are either going to be closed or they're full.
Yes.
And it's just a waste of their time heading all the way down there. So
Absolutely.
I think at least they're getting some relief being in those buses at night, not having to get incarcerated, not having to get, kind of pushed away from wherever they're located. So
a lot of people out in those areas don't want to leave those areas. I mean, that's where they're familiar.
That's where they're
from. That's
from.
where they grew up. That's where they're from. So this brings the services to them, and I do like that aspect of it.
Yep.
All right. Now let's take a look at how our Cowboys and Bears did this week. This is going to be the depressing portion of the...
Our tone will be different from last week.
It's definitely going to be tough. Definitely going to be different from last week.
So my Cowboys played the Lions.
Yeah.
We lost 44-30. I figured it was going to be that kind of game.
Yeah.
The Lions have a great team. So,
they do.
We just made a lot of errors. CeeDee Lamb got a concussion.
Yeah.
He hit hard on that floor. Like, you could see him that something was wrong when he hit.
Yeah.
So I don't know where he's at. I doubt he's going to be in next week's game. So, but
that's a big loss.
That's a big loss. Yeah, but we are 6-6-1.
Yeah, and fighting for the playoffs still. I mean, that's the
so just watching the game. They when it comes to playoffs time, they start giving already percentages.
That's right.
So if you win here, you're going to be this. So we were at 29% if we won the game. If we did it, we were 9%. And that just seeing that number, I was like, oh, this is not good. So our best bet is to hopefully win the division.
Yeah.
If the Eagles continue playing kind of the way they're playing.
Yeah.
But I don't know about the playoffs right now.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
next week we have the Minnesota Vikings. So that's going to be an interesting game as well.
Yeah. Is that in Dallas or is it Minnesota? Do you know?
I think it's in Minnesota.
You think so?
I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that one's going to be. Well, the Vikings haven't been, but they did beat up on Washington last week. But Washington, we've already talked about Washington. They're doing really bad.
Well, Washington and the Giants already eliminated from playoff contention.
Right.
So
and I don't understand that. There's something going on there in Washington in particular. The Giants haven't been good for a while.
Right. But Washington's usually up there, and they always give the Eagles and the Cowboys kind of a run for their money.
This
but
year, they're
not playing the way they usually do.
Well.
Yeah. All right, your Bears.
And then my Bears. Yeah, we tried to do what we've been doing, Danny. We waited until the end to try and pull out the victory, and It was not good.
Again, it's one of those games that to the last couple of seconds.
Minute.
Yeah.
And the thing is that's the thing that the Bears have to understand is that against good teams, you're not going to have that opportunity to be able to pull these games out. You've got to get ahead of them.
Yep.
You got to stay ahead of them. Our defense let me down a little bit in this one, but we were missing our safety. And that made a huge difference because you could see they had 3 big plays for touchdowns, big pass plays.
Well, you made a good point when we spoke about it yesterday. You said, if they play like this in the playoffs against other teams, this last minute, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
Absolutely not.
These teams that are not having great records and like they've been doing kind of all year.
Yep. Coming back.
But look, they play the Packers and it just didn't work.
Story.
Yeah, so
that's exactly right. So next week we have another good defensive team, not necessarily offensive, although the Browns have been playing pretty well.
Good.
So we play the Browns. Hopefully we can get a victory here because it's going to start slipping away. You talked about the playoff opportunity. Yeah. So we went from first in the NFC to now 7th in the NFC, which means we're on the bubble of losing out to the playoffs.
From one game.
From one game. One game. And it's because the NFC is really competitive this year. There's some really good teams with some really good records. And so we've got to get it together. I mean, if we don't, our defense needs to play better. Hopefully we'll get our safety back.
Are they at Chicago or that?
I think it's at Chicago? I believe, this week. Yeah.
All right.
So hopefully.
And I know they're playing the Packers again in like 2 weeks.
Next week after Cleveland.
And that's going to be at home as well.
And that one will be at home. So we'll definitely.
A couple of important games coming up.
Really important games, absolutely. We're going to need, I figure we're probably going to need 11 wins to be able to get in, to get into the playoffs. So, which doesn't leave your Cowboys in a very good position.
No, it does not.
9%
chance. When I saw that, I was like, might as well just go home.
Well, and without CD Lamb, that's going to be
that was
really
a rough
hard.
one,
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see what happens. Okay, so that wraps up the first quarter. We'll be back after this break. Hello, I'm Daniel Arroyo, Vice President of Programs at Pathlight Home. If you're new to our mission, welcome. We're dedicated to changing the lives of those experiencing homelessness and hardship through housing, support services, and career training. What began as one dream for a compassionate solution to homelessness has become a reality. Since our funding, we've provided housing for more than 8,000 people, offering shelter, opportunity, and hope. This month, as we honor National Homeless Awareness Month, we are also kicking off our end-of-year campaign, a time to come together and give back. Every contribution, whether monetary or in kind, directly supports our residents and the community we serve. No gift is too small to make a difference. As we celebrate our journey from dream to reality, thank you for being part of this mission. Together we can make the dream of ending homelessness a reality in our community.
This is the second quarter. We're getting a little deeper into a homelessness topic with something we call offense versus defense. We will each take turns discussing some opposing viewpoints of our topic this week. The question we ask this week is it better to serve less people with more money or not? Please remember that we are trying to show both of the sides of the issue. These do not necessarily reflect our individual stances on these positions. So, is it better to serve less people with more money? Danny, you have the pro or the offense, so you say yes. Let's hear what your arguments are.
All right, so number one, there is a higher likelihood of long-term housing stability. More funding per person usually means you can cover deeper needs, long-term rental subsidies, quality supportive housing, mental health services, case management, transportation, and follow-up care. The result is people are most likely to stay housed and avoid returning to homelessness. Number two, ability to serve individuals with the highest needs. A small percentage of unhoused people have the most complex challenges: serious mental illnesses, chronic medical issues, substance abuse, and past trauma. Intensive, expensive interventions like permanent supportive housing are proven to reduce crisis service use and stabilize this group. Number three, cost savings for communities in the long run. So although the upfront cost is is high per person, research consistently shows that deeply supportive housing reduces emergency room visits, jail stays, and shelter use. The result is fewer long-term public expenses. And finally, better quality and consistency of services. Smaller caseloads allow staff to provide individualized, consistent support. This increases program success rates and improves people's experiences. So, Paul,
All right.
you have defense.
I have the defense, or no. Fewer people get help. The biggest drawback, obviously, to serving less people is that the limited funds means fewer households are served. While some people get intensive help, many more remain unsheltered or in shelters. It can leave people out who would succeed with lighter assistance. So not everyone needs high-cost, high-intensity services. Some could quickly exit homelessness with small rental assistance or short-term help. A serve fewer with more approach risks underserving this large group. Next, the political and public resistance. Policymakers and communities may perceive it as unfair or inefficient to spend large amounts per person when many others are unserved. This can make funding harder to sustain. Next, the risk of bottlenecks. If every case requires heavy resources, wait lists grow, shelters remain full, outreach teams struggle to connect people to housing quickly. And then finally, there's a potential for misallocation if needs are not accurately assessed. So if assessment tools misidentify who needs expensive services, resources may go to the wrong individuals, reducing overall effectiveness. So I'll start with some of your points that you made. Of course, permanent supportive housing is something that they pointed out in yours, is that you get to serve the people. So it's kind of the 80-20 rule. I don't know how many people are familiar with that, but basically the 80-20 rule says that 20% of any problem or issue that you have, 20% of the people that have a certain problem will take up 80% of the resources. And so if you're serving that 20%, then just like it says in some of your argument here, you can get better quality services, you can reduce savings in other places like the community, things like that. I think the biggest problem with serving less people, and this is something that we see over and over, is that people can't see the results as easily. Is that, and I'm talking about the community, I'm talking about people that are not in our service field. And look, this is a question that we struggle with every single day. Our service providers and our communities and our systems struggle with this every day. Do we try to serve more people, or do we try to serve people with bigger issues and harder issues, which is going to be more expensive? And so we have to try and go back and forth between these things, trying to serve people who have more severe issues, but also trying to help the people who don't have those severe issues.
Yeah, I'm back and forth on this because we want to serve everyone, right?
Yeah,
we want to
absolutely.
get everyone off the street. It doesn't matter who you are. We want you off the street.
Yep.
But we see that when there is, we talk about case management here and caseloads. How much is too much for a case manager to provide the best service?
That's right.
To get them where they need to be, get them housed, provide all the services they need. But then you kind of lose track of that person, or it's, you have a caseload of 30 or 40 people. How much one-on-one are you giving that person who needs it the most? Because like you said, some people are more severe than others and need that more of that attention.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's kind of back and forth on it because again, we want to serve everyone.
Yeah,
we want to get everybody in, but it is expensive, right? It is expensive to serve everyone. So,
and I've seen some models, which I think are some of the better models, where they actually are trying to mitigate this question or these resources. And what they do is they basically assign, when they do an assessment with someone, they assign them a level. Let's say, higher acuity, lower acuity, whatever let's say it's a number system, right? 1 to 5. So the people that are 1s need less help. The people who are 5s need the most help. And what they do is when they come into the program, they assign them to case managers, but they make sure that case managers get a mix of those.
Right.
So they might say, look, we're only going to give you 3 5s, but we're going to give you 10 1s. and then we mix that. And if another 5 comes in, we're not going to assign them to you. We're going to assign them to someone else because you have enough 5s already. And they mix that. So they're able to serve more people, the ones on that end, but they're also able to serve people with more attention on the other end because they have a few of those. But then also it makes it easier for the case managers because then they know, okay, this person's coming in with a 5 level of need, a high level of need that they need. I know I'm going to have to see this person maybe 3 times a week. But if someone comes in with a 1 immediately, then I know I'm only going to have to see this person once a week. So they develop their case plans with the individual.
And we have that here with our case managers. When I talk to our director of housing program, we talk about her caseload and her staff caseload. Some of them, she's like, yeah, we see them like once a month. They're good. They don't need us. They're good. They're taking care of what they have to, and then there's others that are in their office every other day with some type of need, or they're struggling with some mental health, or they're off their meds. And so I think they kind of do that. They assess their own clients because they know them better than anybody else, right?
Absolutely.
And they know, like, okay, here comes Carl. Carl's gonna need something, or let me go check on Carl because I haven't seen him in a month and he's busy working and doing his thing. So it's hard. It's hard to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it made a great point though in my section for the no's is it's the accurate assessment because that's a huge part of this. Yeah. If we can assess or get an idea of what people really need, and again, this goes back to the transitional housing discussion that we had as well, is if you can assess as quickly as possible what a person or a family or whoever you're serving needs. If you can get that accurate, the more accurate that is, the better you're going to be able to serve them on the front end. And if we can get them served on the front end as accurately as possible, then there's a good chance that they're going to be able to get on that back end a whole lot faster.
I think kind of what you said earlier about the community and seeing, okay, well, you got this great program, but why do we still see,
all these people
200 people out on the street? And but again, it goes kind of the bottlenecking that you said about the shelters are remaining full.
That's right.
Outreach. I mean, they struggle just to find housing for people. So you want to serve less, but it's going to be harder for those out there who are trying to get people housing.
That's absolutely right.
We're limited, which they are now. Yeah. They are now on finding housing for people.
And I think that's one of the myths that we have to deal with from the community often is someone sees somebody out on the streets and they try to refer them to a service, not understanding what the services are or how the system works. They try to refer them and they can't get in. And they don't understand. Hold on, I've got a homeless person here, a person who's sleeping on the street, and I'm referring them to services and they can't get in. Yeah. What's the issue here? And sometimes they can't get in because of eligibility. I mean, when your system is overwhelmed with permanent supportive housing, there's a very specific criteria for that permanent supportive housing, and it keeps people from getting into that housing sometimes. But then on the other end, it's like, well, but the reality is this person might not have greater needs than another person who happens to be sleeping.
I was just going to say
them.
The same thing you said was people in the community think that they refer and we talk to you and you're housed.
You automatically get in. It's
absolutely. Very difficult to get people into housing. Take the whole housing unit aside. It's the start of the conversation, getting them assessed, figuring out what their needs are to get them in. And I think a lot of people think, I refer them over. Why are they still on the street? Because it's not that easy. It's a process.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we want to provide the best service for them to make sure that we're putting them in the right place, getting the right services. So, it's that education of learning. It's not that easy.
No, it isn't. And again, we understand how it's frustrating for the community. Yeah. But again, and ultimately what it comes down to, and we've talked about this multiple times, is it comes down to the scaling of resources.
Exactly.
Look, if we had enough resources for every single person that was out on the streets, well, then it wouldn't be an issue. Then it would be on us, because if you made a referral to us and we couldn't put that person into housing or shelter, whatever the case is, then that would be on us. But you take places like New York, right? New York, and we've talked about this before. Yep. They have a right to shelter in New York, which means that everyone who gets referred has to be referred to a shelter.
Yep.
but I'm not so sure that system is working really well.
I don't think it is either, yeah.
They're overflowing into hotels, and they're overflowing into all kinds of other shelter spaces, and trying to figure out how to get everybody shelter beds.
Yeah.
But at the same time, spending a huge amount of money on the individuals, because again, they're not really assessing people based on what their needs are.
Yeah.
It's just, you have a shelter need, you have to get into shelter. I'm not sure that's always the best way to do it.
Yeah, and I think also for those that are listening and saying, then why refer? Refer, so we can start the process. We could start the conversation, because there might be someone out there who hasn't spoken to anyone in a year
That's
or more,
exactly right,
or someone who's never been in the system, so we could start that conversation, start the process to find out what to do with them next. So.
Well, and we talked about, and we're going to talk more about the point in time count later.
Yep.
This is a good place for us to get a better understanding of what our system needs to look like when we go out there, and we can interview people, and we can talk to them about what their needs are, and we can see the group as a whole, every person experiencing homelessness in our area. Then we can start to say, okay, look, when we did the interview, we had this many people who had these issues, we had this many people who had these issues. We need to adjust our system that way, and that's the way it's supposed to work, is we're supposed to be able to take that information and adjust our system to what the actual population of people who need.
Just to start the conversation, start something for us to work with, especially if someone who hasn't even been touched by anyone.
Absolutely.
I mean, if that one conversation starts something different for them.
Absolutely.
And it gives them some hope and something that, and it's going to take a while, but at least we started a conversation.
Absolutely. And we talked about outreach, and that's where outreach comes in, is outreach. You're right. They often get frustrated because they can't make referrals.
Right.
But the least they can do is they can go out, they can talk to people, they can assess people, and they can start working with people while they're on the street still. So we definitely want more referrals. We want to know where everybody is and what their needs are as much as possible. So now we'll talk about Pathlight Homes' position. We believe that the best systems and agencies find a balance to serve more people and people with more severe issues. That's why the breadth of services and housing types is important to help everyone have access to housing. And again, it comes down to that scalability, is if we can scale our services so that we can serve a larger group of people, then that's where those referrals become more and more valuable.
Yep, definitely.
So.
All right, so we've made it to the halfway point, and during halftime, we want to take a moment for fan interaction and highlight an inspired quote related to housing and homelessness. So,
all right.
Paul, you have the questions.
That's right. Let's start by hearing from our listeners. Our first question today comes from Heather. As the holidays approach, what are the top item donations you need for your residents? Danny.
We need to call Gigi in here for this. No, I think, she's the expert at that. But right. No, I think now for the holidays, and not just for our residents, I'm going to switch a little bit, but also the community. I think it's getting cold.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Jackets, socks,
absolutely.
hats, all of that. For our residents, I think just a nice gift for their unit. A nice gift for their unit. We do stuff for them here. We have Christmas parties. And
we do.
We buy them gifts, and just the appreciation they show, not just everything we do all year, but just for that one day of Christmas. But gift cards. I mean, gift cards. We have someone who is who's here in our kitchen who is donating a bunch of gift cards to our residents, which is fantastic.
Great. Yeah, absolutely.
So any little bit helps, gift cards to Walmart, gift cards, but especially the community is those cold items that we definitely need, blankets, and so
And also, now's the time we're doing our annual fundraiser, end of year fundraising campaign, and so obviously dollars that are coming in, and again tax deductible because we're a 501c3, so we want to remind people now's the time to give those dollars and really have an impact on what we're trying to do here. Again, for the rest of the year, because we'll be able to use those for anything that residents need.
Anything
and to fill those gaps, basically.
Oh, definitely,
All right, so our next question comes from Joe. Why aren't more faith-based programs involved in getting people housed?
That's a good question.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that faith-based organizations are involved.
Okay.
To a point. To a point. They do food drives. They do
I would agree.
clothing drives.
Sure.
But I think they don't fully understand what housing is and
Right.
what that approach is.
Yeah.
And I think with us, we're trying to reach more faith-based organizations to
Yes,
partner
we
with
are.
us and to learn a little bit more about what we do, and the barriers we find. And,
Right.
and again, referrals, because they do see a lot
Yeah.
of people who are homeless, especially when they do cold nights, during hurricane
Yeah.
season. And but I think it's just education of learning what we do, what resources they have, because they have a lot of people in their
Yeah, they do.
in their church that might have, housing
Yeah.
units or houses that they could rent rooms.
That's
and
right.
So I think it's just more connection of the faith-based organizations with us nonprofits.
Sure.
And just starting those conversations and figure out how we could partner together but letting them know what we do,
Yeah.
how we do it, and then how they can kind of jump in when we don't have housing.
Right.
And do they know someone?
Well, and I think this question is getting to the scalability. Again, I'll use that word. Is think of how many churches, synagogues, mosques, any faith-based groups are out there in our communities. We have tons of them. And if every faith-based organization, if every church, if every synagogue, if every mosque, if every faith-based, unit out there took on one person or took on one family or took on whatever, we could really put a dent in homelessness here. But I think you brought up the good point, though, is they're not professionals. So
Right.
they don't know. We see, like you said, we see good things happening from faith-based organizations, but oftentimes it doesn't have the impact that it could have if they were partnering with professional organizations. Again, we have some really great relationships with some faith-based organizations, and we want to have more relationships with them.
So previous employer that I had, we had satellite locations. One of our locations was based at a church, and we had case management there
Yeah.
that provided prevention.
Yeah.
But also housing as well. So we had people going to the church to get food, to get clothing, and then they were getting referred to that case manager to kind of start the conversation. And that was a nice collaboration because it not only educated the church, but it also gave us more resources when we couldn't find things. We would go to them and they were like, well, I think I know this person. Let me see if I could connect you.
Right.
But we had them in an office at the church providing those services.
And some of the best places that I've seen where churches really can get involved is volunteers.
Definitely.
Is we always need more volunteers. And the more volunteers we have here helping us do that professional work, the better we can do our work. You talked about the attention that people need, especially people with high acuity and high needs. Is the only way we can do that is what I call the Disney model, which is where we have more people on site than we need to have on site. And volunteers can help us fill that gap. They can help us come in and help us do all kinds of different things with people.
But I think with us also, I think it's not just them volunteering with us. We need to go out to them and volunteer for them.
That's true.
To be there and set up a table to talk to people that are coming through.
That's true.
And see what. So I kind of both ways on it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree
Yeah.
with you because you're right. Getting out to the satellite locations is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
But you've got to have those churches that are willing to do that, and they've got to have people there
Right.
because we can't just go to a church and just
Hey, I'm
show
setting up a table.
show up on a Tuesday morning or
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
They've got to have staff there.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got to have these things like this. But I think it's just really partnering more with the professional groups, the provider agencies, and learning where the biggest impact is from that they can have. Because again, if it's a small church and they have a small group of people, then maybe it's volunteer opportunities. If it's a large church, well, there's a lot of money that goes into large churches, and that money could be used to house a lot of people. And sometimes it's land. We talk about property and trying to partner with churches because they have a lot of property often. We could build housing on that property.
Like you said earlier, like one church just sponsoring a family. Right?
Yeah.
Sponsor a family, we start the process, get them housed, but the church is involved in all those steps to get them there.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
All right, so it's time to get inspired by our quote of the week. So our quote this week comes from Deepak Chopra, who said, "All great changes are preceded by chaos."
And this is a good saying. And what I really like about this saying is it's true. I mean, you think of us as human beings, and you think of when we want to make changes to things, right? Mm-hmm. It's when we're in chaos. It's when something happens to us that all of a sudden we want to go ahead and we want to make change. Because we're not apt to try to make changes, right? I mean, that's just not who we are. We like things the way they are. Mm-hmm. We like things to stay the way they are.
That comfort level.
But until something happens, something usually bad happens, then we adjust and we have to make that change. And with the people who are homeless out on the streets, that's their bad moment. That's their chaos.
That's their chaos.
And I think that's one of the other things that the community needs to know is that most of the people out on the streets want to change their lives. They want to have better lives than they're having. The problem is sometimes they don't know how. We talked again about the access sometimes to different services or different things that they can get in. But overwhelmingly, when I was doing street outreach, that's what we found is that people really did want to change their lives. They just needed some help in trying to do it.
We say it all the time. Nobody wants to be on the street.
No,
I mean, that's just
they don't.
Obvious, but they are in chaos.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, that's what the outreach team does. That's what we do. We try to provide changes for them to get them off the street. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think COVID was a perfect example of that. So that's kind of where my stories come from is, you know, during COVID, we learned a lot of things during COVID. And to me, the most valuable thing for our industry, for the homeless response system during COVID, was that we have way too many rules and way too many barriers for providing services, which just magically, Danny, got dropped.
Exactly.
When all of a sudden when COVID showed up.
Yep.
Now you have to go visit people 6 times a week. No, you don't have to go visit people 6 times a week. You know, we can't do, video conferencing. Right. Oh, yes, you can do video conferencing.
You Zoom.
And all of a sudden, you've got people who are hundreds and hundreds of miles away from each other having conferences and having team meetings with each other. And I'm like, how stupid were we?
Yeah.
Making people drive an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, to go to an hour-long meeting, when in fact we could have done it by video the whole time.
Yeah, I think COVID changed a lot of how us in nonprofit looked at how services were provided.
That's right.
And how we had to adjust. And we used to say it was like organized chaos.
Yeah.
You know, it was chaotic, but we were organized, but we were trying to figure out what to do. At that time, I was working at a shelter, so just imagine 500 people in a shelter. Yep. And we were building walls, and we were building, I mean, it was just insane, and it was chaotic, but we made the changes in order for it to work so we could serve the population that most vulnerable.
That's right.
Out in the street. So and it was,
and I bet you waived a lot of rules.
And,
we that you had in place.
We
waived
a lot.
Why do we have these rules?
Yep, we waived a lot.
And you start looking at that, and then after COVID kind of subsides a little bit, you ask yourself, why would we go back to having those rules when we didn't need them this whole time?
They were unnecessary.
Unnecessary, absolutely.
Yep, definitely.
And that concludes our halftime. Please stay with us after this short message.
Hello, I'm Gigi Ramirez, the Senior Director of Fundraising and Engagement here at Pathlight Home. For over 30 years, we've helped more than 8,000 people transition from homelessness to hope. But when someone moves from the streets to their own home, they often have nothing. That's why we provide immediate essentials, everything from bedding and food to soap and cookware, to help them truly feel at home. Beyond housing, Pathlight offers career training and supportive services, like our 12-week culinary program, helping residents gain skills, find jobs, and rebuild independence. You can be part of the story. Volunteer your time, donate essential goods, or become a monthly Pathlight hero, ensuring every neighbor has a chance to thrive. Visit pathlighthome.org to donate today.
It's now time to kick off the third quarter by highlighting the goodwill and good works in the NFL community, looking at how our local football teams fared, and announcing the NFL Home Team Locks of the Week. So our NFL Player Spotlight of the Week this week is the Steelers have their 2025 Walter Payton. He was such a great player.
Yeah, he was.
NFL Man of the Year award winner, and the player who will go on to be nominated for the overall award at the NFL honors before the Super Bowl. This year, the winner and nominee is linebacker Alex Highsmith. I am so humble, honored, and grateful to be the Steelers nominee for this year's Walter Payton Man of the Year, said Highsmith. I truly believe that God has given me the platform to be a blessing to others, especially in the communities that I love. Walter Payton is one of the best football players of all time, but his true impact and legacy are felt today through the way he lifted up his community. I'm grateful to be able to make an impact off the field as he did. He established the Alex Highsmith Family Foundation in 3 places: Pittsburgh, his home of Wilmington, North Carolina, and Charlotte, North Carolina, where he played his college ball. The foundation helps kids through fitness, education, and community. Those programs have included the annual Alex Highsmith Youth Football Camp, which began in 2021 and has helped more than 100 young athletes. Along with all of his work with his foundation in 2024, Highsmith helped those in need in Pittsburgh after a fire tore through a homeless shelter. The residents of the shelter had nearly all of their personal items destroyed, and Highsmith stepped in to provide the shelter with new clothes as well as serving dinner to each resident. Since then, Highsmith has visited a Pittsburgh homeless shelter each month.
That's fantastic. And again, talked about chaos and helping people. Mm-hmm. You know, they had a fire, everything was destroyed, and people stepped in. You know, when you have the means and you have the ability to do so, you give back. Yeah. And again, Danny, I'll echo your sentiments. Back to the hometown, back to their college football playing place, and then obviously where they're living now. I mean, it always comes back to that.
It's great because they have a platform to just not only just give, but also raise awareness.
That's right.
For those type of causes. So,
and again, based on our last conversation, you know, a lot of these people are doing this based on their faith. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a huge thing that faith-based organizations, churches, synagogues, mosques, like I said, need to really ask themselves are we doing God's work in our community? And what can we do to do more of God's work? Obviously, helping individuals in need is a big part of that. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Call, fantasy football.
Oh, my gosh.
I could have sworn last week you said Trey McBride, 11 points. This is, I mean, come on. He's surely going to get this.
It was a given, Danny. So last week I picked as my fantasy football player pick of the week.
Let me cut you off for good. I think next season we need to get a score on you on that. Like what you're
Oh, my God.
I just want to see where we're at because I don't know.
No.
I don't think it's very positive right now.
No. And we could do it as a differential, right? You know, they do the differentials in football. Yeah, I'd be about minus 190 at this point or something. I don't know. It's just terrible.
All right, so Trey didn't do that good, huh?
Trey McBride, tight end for the Arizona Cardinals, who is a great player. Mm-hmm. And by the way, they were playing the Los Angeles Rams. And as even more perspective, they got blown out by the Rams, which usually means that players like Trey McBride have huge gains because they're trying to catch up. They're passing the ball all the time. They're doing all that. Mm-hmm. He was projected to get 11 points, and he scored 5. 5, Danny.
Okay.
5.
That's not good.
It's like
was he there?
It's practically he didn't even step on the field.
Was he there?
I don't know.
He got 3 points for attendance.
I guess maybe. I don't know what happened. I don't know what they were thinking.
All right,
we're going to try it again. Here we go. This week, my pick of the week is Trevor Lawrence. He's a quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay, this looks good. The
Jags are coming on now.
This one looks good.
Yep. And they're playing against the Jets. So you've already told me the Jets are no good. So he should easily make his 17
That 17 might double probably.
There we go.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for Trevor Lawrence to have a big game against the Jets. I think it's at home actually in Jacksonville. I'm pretty sure. Mm-hmm. He's projected, like I said, to get 17 points. So hopefully he'll outdo that.
Good luck.
All right, so now on to my fantasy flashback. This week we give a little bit of love to a kicker. How about that, Danny? Chris Boswell. So in week 15 of 2016, Chris Boswell, the kicker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who's still the kicker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, by the way, kicked 6 field goals in a 24-20 victory over Cincinnati.
Wow. Pretty
6
good.
field goals.
That's a lot.
And to add to that, 5 of those 6 were over 40 yards,
Not bad.
which is fantastic. So Chris Boswell had a great week that week. And if you had Chris Boswell as your fantasy kicker that week, you probably won the week because kickers are not known to score that many points, but he got a lot of points that week.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And now onto the local football team.
Jones.
Watch, just team. I just put team.
Just team,
not
just
teams.
team,
It's
just
not
team.
teams
Yes,
anymore.
it's
It's teams.
Go
So
Jones.
High School.
Go Jones.
There you go. Both rooting for Jones.
Yes.
Jones is still in the playoffs. They beat Port Charlotte 35-23. They're now ranked number 27 in Florida and number 6 in Orlando. So their next game, which I believe is a semifinal of the playoffs. I'm pretty sure it's a semifinal of the playoffs. So 2 more games, Danny. 2 more games.
Getting there.
All right. They will play American Heritage, who is 8-5. Jones is now 12-2. They'll play American Heritage, and hopefully they'll get the victory. Now, American Heritage is a good team. I imagine these 5 losses are probably to really good teams.
I think Boone played them this year,
Did
if I'm
they?
not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we did.
And I mean, they're. I think they're a pretty good team. So I'm hopeful Jones can get the victory and go on to the championship.
They're
but
playing very good.
But this one, I think we're starting to get a little hairier. The further you get in the playoffs, it gets a little more challenging. And now into our locks of the week. We're predicting the home team to win each week. And all right, Danny, here's where, I didn't do so well here. Last week I had the Atlanta Falcons. They were at home versus Seattle. And I know Seattle's a good team, but Atlanta's, trying to make a playoff run here. They're Tampa is leading their division. And they're trying to get back in it, but they got blown out by Seattle.
Yeah.
Seattle 37, Atlanta 9. So I lose, and that takes my record on the season to 6-8. So Danny,
So Mike, I had the Commanders against the Vikings, and the Commanders got a big donut. It was 31-0. They got blown out. 'Cause like what we were saying earlier, the Commanders are not playing.
Good for you,
like
Danny.
the Commanders
Right
played.
on. You picked it.
Yeah, they got blown out.
yeah, they did.
So my record is 8-6.
Oh, you're opening up a lead over me,
Yes,
Danny.
sir.
And not many weeks left.
I
So
know,
I
this
got
is
to get
great.
this straight here.
Yep. So
All
next week you have
Next week, I have Tampa Bay, who is at home playing Atlanta, this terrible team.
So you went the opposite
So I
way,
went the
though?
opposite way. I
Pretty
said,
much.
look, if
Yeah.
Atlanta's not going to give me the victory, well, then I'm going to pick against them this week.
Yep.
And you
I have the Bills against the Patriots, so that's going to be a
the Patriots.
fantastic game.
So you got the Patriots at home, and
at
that
home.
should be a really good game. Now, my brother is a Buffalo Bills fan. He's a huge Buffalo Bills fan, and he has been his entire life. And he tells me the Bills are going to beat the Patriots. So I didn't want to, jinx you
You're
or
putting it out there.
or put it. But he said the Bills are going to beat the Patriots in New England. That's what he told me.
All right, let's
And
see.
so I'm just letting you know. So
Let's see.
if you get the loss, then we'll know he was right.
Brother's psychic.
All right, and that ends our third quarter. So stay tuned for our wrap up after this message. Hello, everyone. I'm Carl Falconer, the president and CEO of Pathlight Home, and I'm often asked by many in the community, what can I do to help end homelessness? I would like to invite you to join Pathlight Home's efforts. Pathlight Home is a 501c3 nonprofit organization in Central Florida. We currently have 560 units of housing that we provide to individuals experiencing homelessness. But we also provide additional support through employment resource centers and mental health services. We have a drop-in day center where people can come in from the heat, do laundry, get meals, all in preparation to get them into housing eventually and off the streets. Community involvement is key to the success of our efforts, and we love when community members want to get involved with Pathlight Home. There are 3 things we invite you to do to help. Number one, consider supporting us with funding. No donation is too small, and every dollar has an impact on our community. You can go to pathlighthome.org and click our donate button to contribute anytime. Number two is volunteering. We'd love to have volunteers come in and help us with any of our projects. We have ongoing projects and needs, but are also open to individuals and groups sharing specific talents in ways that build up our residents. Number three is take a tour with us. Come here to our facility and see what we do for yourself. It's the best way to get an inside look at what we're doing at Pathlight Home each day. We think it's important to understand the work it takes to fight homelessness and love the opportunity to meet community members who are passionate about the issue. We love our Central Florida community and are grateful every day for the continued support. And again, to get involved, go to pathlighthome.org. Thank you.
All right, welcome to the fourth quarter, where we will wind down the episode by reflecting on the Homelessness MVP and Fumble of the Week before wrapping up with our key takeaway. So, Carl, you have the MVP of the week.
Let's start with our MVP of the week. Our MVP of the week takes us to Champaign, Illinois. With temperatures plummeting into the single digits, the Champaign County Regional Planning Committee has opened its first seasonal overflow shelter for families with children under 18 years old. The first come, first served pilot program screens families at a remote facility on Neal Street. Once approved, they can check into the shelter, which is within a half a mile also in downtown Champaign. The RPC isn't releasing the shelter's specific location in the interest of guest safety. The shelter can hold around 8 households each night with a capacity of 24 individuals. There is no limit to how often a family can stay. Jesse Heckenmuller, the RPC's Assistant Director of Community Services, said the program stemmed from a community need. I think that all families in our community are valuable and worthy of safety, support, and dignity, she said. And from my perspective, this is important because this is one way that we're able to offer housing and also learn how we continue to improve what is offered, how it's offered, and how it meets the need within our community. Families seeking shelter should arrive at the screening office before doors open at 7 p.m. and close at 7:30. In August, the RPC received a $175,000 grant from the city of Urbana to maintain the shelter from early November to April. Support has also provided from the Housing Authority of Champaign County, other donors, and volunteers. We're really grateful that we were awarded that funding opportunity to do so, Heckenmuller said. In years past, the RPC bought hotel rooms for families, but stopped due to cost. Bryce Decker, the program manager, said the program is well worth it. I believe we actually have the ability to succeed, and I think it's worthwhile, he said. I think people should have a chance to live full lives, not having to worry about freezing or knowing what's happening to them night to night is worth it. So
Pretty good.
Right,
Kinda,
absolutely,
and
it's the first one.
Yeah,
it's
and kind of what we talk about too, opening smaller shelters, identifying the population you want to serve.
That's right.
And it's
And
24 families.
And doing it, again, $175,000 to serve over 4 months or 5 months.
Yep, that's not bad.
That's not bad,
That's not
you know.
bad.
And the value they're going to get out of this, because being able to take these people off of the streets, even for a night, can get them connected to housing later.
Exactly, especially during this time with the weather. And Illinois is very cold. So
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it.
All right, so now I have the fumble of the week. So, in West Virginia, members of Wheeling City Council heard backlash Tuesday night about the closure of the city's homeless encampment, which earlier in the day was vacated and cleared of everything left behind. After awakening to a heavy blanket of snow from an overnight winter storm, volunteers and representatives of local service agencies on Tuesday morning continued to assist the last remaining individuals at the camp on city operations department property Industrial Drive near the Peninsula Cemetery that for nearly 2 years had served as a place where the homeless were permitted to stay in tents. The city chose to close the site at 5 p.m. on Monday after giving 6 weeks' notice, describing the location that had been exempted from the city's new camping ban as a failure. While no one who remained at the camp after the 5 p.m. Monday deadline was arrested, a heavy police presence descended on the site Tuesday morning when city operations and refuse hauling crews brought dump trucks, backhoes, and other heavy equipment to clean up and clear the property. By Tuesday evening, all tents and other personal property left behind was cleared from the site, loaded into roll-off dumpsters, and taken away. It's just horrible. City leaders had described the camp as a hellhole that was not suitable for anyone to live in. No residents of the camp were arrested on Tuesday, but one volunteer at the site who reportedly was there with the representatives of Ohio Valley Mutual Aid assisting camp residents with vacating the site was arrested and booked in the Northern Regional Jail, according to the Wheeler Police. Melissa Marie Birch, 36, who was booked on misdemeanor charges of trespassing and obstructing an officer. East Wheeling resident Vincent DeGeorge of OV Mutual Aid spoke before members of the Wheeling City Council during their meeting Tuesday night. DeGeorge expressed frustration with the way the camp closure was handled, but assured his willingness to continue to work with city leaders to find a solution to the city's ongoing challenges with its homeless population. I came here tonight to ask for a reset. I'm willing to work with you, and I ask if you're willing to work with us, DeGeorge said. You guys have won. You've managed to close and clear Wheeling's homeless encampment just before winter on the eve of a snowstorm, not once, but twice over the past 2 years. You've banned homelessness. DeGeorge noted that the city has been sued by the American Civil Liberties Union in the past for its handling of homelessness issues, yet the city has stayed the course.
Yeah, this one's a little different. I grant it. Look, they created a space where people were able to camp. Mm-hmm. They didn't like the way that it was being run. They didn't like the way that the outcomes that came from it or what was happening there, and they decided to close it down. But you can't tell me that after a significant snowstorm is when you're going to try to do this. You can make adjustments for things. Mm-hmm. The first part of this, I think, which is a fumble, is number one, okay, so the encampment isn't working. Well, what's wrong with it, right? What's the problem there? Let's solve what the problem is, not penalize everybody there for maybe not having restrooms available or maybe not having enough service providers on site or whatever the issue was. Whatever the issue was that they decided they're going to close this down, let's solve that issue rather than penalize the people who were staying there and just trying to live their lives. Yeah. And then secondly, you wait until, well, you don't wait. You have this on your schedule, and then a snowstorm comes in, and you tell me you can't bump this back? You can't say, hold on, let's reevaluate this a little bit because, you know, it's a bad time to be able to do this or whatever. I mean, it would be like a hurricane coming through an area in Central Florida.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden we say, okay, now you got to leave the day after a hurricane blows through. Seriously?
Yeah, and just you're calling it a hellhole.
Then
were you not overseeing it that you could avoid it getting it to that point? And what is it that you call a hellhole anyway? Because it probably wasn't as extreme as they're describing it, you know. Yeah, so and then the other thing is that they just came in with dumpsters and dump trucks, and now you're moving people out. You're taking some of their belongings, which is the only thing they have.
That's right.
And it's horrible. Just the worst.
Absolutely.
The worst. Definite fumble.
Definitely a fumble. All right, and finally, here's our key takeaway for this episode. Transitions can be hard for people. Change can be hard for people. But when you have the feeling you should change something in your life, you're almost always right to do so. And very rarely do you hear people say, I knew I needed to change something in my life, but I was wrong and should have just kept doing what I was doing. I mean, very rarely, right?
Yeah.
Again, we talk about, and again, it's not just about homelessness. It's about change, and it's about people changing their lives. And sometimes it takes that significant, motivator to get in there and really get people to change their lives. Yeah. But that's what we're seeing with the people that we run into. These people are in crisis. They're in survival mode, and they're just trying to change their lives for the better. And And we approach them from that perspective. And I think if there's one message I want to give to the community, it's to realize that when people are out there on the streets, they're in bad spots, they're in bad situations. And so kindness is the first thing that you really need to show to people.
Yeah, I tell my staff all the time, change is good. You just have to be willing to accept it.
That's right.
You know, and be willing to accept the change. And it might work, it might not work, but you got to try it.
Yeah,
you got to try
absolutely.
it. And I think for those that we serve in the community, they're scared. And they are going to get scared of change. They're going to get scared to be put, like we said earlier about transitional housing, being put someone into a unit and they now have to be responsible for their own rent. And
that's right.
It's scary for them, for someone who's been on the street 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah.
But with the proper services and case management and all
support.
that support from not us, but like you said, faith-based organizations, and change is good.
Yeah,
Change
absolutely.
is good. So that concludes our episode for the week. Remember, if you have any questions or comments for us, please email us at questions@pathlighthome. As always, we leave the last words for our beloved co-founder, the late Reverend Fred Maxwell. You would think I highlight all this stuff.
I'm still dreaming. That we will become able and sufficient to increase the housing of homeless. This is merely a beginning.